Have you ever felt that someone is disturbing your inner peace? Difficult people may exhibit particular behaviors that, if not recognized in time, can cause significant suffering in your life. In this video, we'll explore how Buddhism offers profound tools to identify and manage these negative energies while maintaining our serenity and inner balance. Understanding these signs is crucial for protecting your well-being and cultivating healthy relationships. Join us on this journey of self-discovery and learn how Buddhism can guide you every step of the way. Sign 1. The shadow of attachment. The first sign we need to explore is manipulation, which in a Buddhist context can be understood as a manifestation of attachment. In Buddhism, attachment is one of the main causes of suffering. When someone tries to manipulate us, it's because they are caught up in their own desires and fears, attempting to control circumstances and people to meet their needs. This behavior stems from attachment to specific outcomes and fear of not getting what they want. Buddha taught that everything in life is impermanent. When we try to cling to people or situations, we inevitably suffer because we are fighting against the very nature of reality. Manipulation is an attempt to force reality to fit our expectations, which is a constant and exhausting struggle. How can you recognize manipulation in your life? It's key to be aware of the times when someone tries to influence your decisions, especially if you feel uncomfortable or pressured to act against your own interests or values. These individuals may use subtle techniques, such as emotional blackmail or truth manipulation, to get you where they want you. Buddhism offers a powerful solution: detachment. Practicing detachment doesn't mean we don't care about anything or anyone. Rather, it means we learn to love and interact without clinging to outcomes. This allows us to set compassionate boundaries with others and protect our inner peace without falling into the trap of manipulation. By cultivating an equanimous mind, we can respond with wisdom and compassion, maintaining our serenity even in difficult situations. Sign 2. Pride as a barrier. The second sign is the inability to apologize, a manifestation of pride and ego. In Buddhism, the ego is seen as the root of many problems, as it makes us believe in a false separation between ourselves and others. People who cannot apologize are trapped in the illusion that admitting a mistake will make them weak or vulnerable. This attitude reflects the fear of losing control or the image they have constructed of themselves. However, Buddhism teaches us that true power and freedom come from humility. Humility is not weakness, but the ability to see ourselves as we are, without masks or self-deception. When we admit our mistakes, we take a step toward the liberation of the ego and greater authenticity. How do you deal with someone who cannot apologize? First, it's important to understand that this person is suffering, trapped in their own pride. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, practice compassion. Remember that we are all on a learning path and that no one is perfect. Meditating on humility and acceptance can help you not take this behavior as a personal attack and maintain your inner peace. Furthermore, Buddhism invites us to reflect on our own actions. How many times have we avoided apologizing out of pride? By becoming aware of our own faults, we can open ourselves to the possibility of growth and improve our relationships. Sign 3. The closed heart. The third sign is a lack of empathy, which in Buddhism is seen as a grave ignorance of the interconnectedness of all beings. Someone who lacks empathy lives in a state of separation, believing that their suffering is unique and disconnected from the pain of others. This not only isolates them emotionally, but also generates great suffering in their life and in the lives of those around them. Buddhism teaches that all beings are connected through the web of life, and that our actions and thoughts affect others in ways we often do not fully understand. A lack of empathy is a reflection of ignorance about this fundamental truth. When we cannot put ourselves in others' shoes, we perpetuate the cycle of suffering and confusion. How can you identify someone who lacks empathy? These individuals often show indifference to the suffering of others, are unable to understand other perspectives, and often make insensitive comments without realizing it. Buddhist teachings guide us toward the practice of active compassion, which is not just a feeling, but a force that drives us to act to alleviate the suffering of others. Meditation on loving kindness, or metta, is a fundamental practice in Buddhism for cultivating empathy. By focusing our minds on the sincere wish for all beings to be happy and free from suffering, we begin to dissolve the barriers that separate us from others. This shift in perspective not only improves our relationships, but also brings us closer to understanding the true nature of reality, where happiness and suffering are shared by all. Sign 4. The agitation of the spirit. The fourth sign is the constant creation of conflicts, a clear sign of an agitated and disturbed mind. In Buddhism, inner peace is the foundation of a balanced and meaningful life. People who constantly seek or provoke conflicts are disconnected from their center and project their inner chaos onto the outer world. Buddha taught that the mind is like a lake. When it is calm, it clearly reflects reality. But when it is agitated, everything we see is distorted. People who live in a state of perpetual conflict are trapped in their own turbulent emotions, unable to see things as they really are. This not only creates suffering for them, but also for everyone around them. How do you deal with someone who creates conflicts? The practice of equanimity is key. Equanimity means maintaining calm and composure, regardless of external circumstances. It's not about being indifferent, but about not being swept away by others' negative emotions. Meditation on breathing can be a powerful tool for keeping the mind clear and calm in tense situations. Additionally, Buddhism teaches us to see beyond superficial appearances. Often, conflict is a manifestation of the person's internal suffering. If we can respond with compassion instead of reactivity, we can help dissolve the conflict rather than fuel it. Keep your focus on inner peace and the well-being of everyone involved. Sign 5. The illusion of lies. The fifth behavior is constant lying, which in Buddhism is considered a distortion of reality and an obstacle to the spiritual path. Lying not only deceives others, but also obscures our own perception of the truth. Each lie we tell or accept takes us further away from the mental clarity and sincerity essential to achieving enlightenment. Buddha taught that right speech is one of the 8 steps of the Noble Path, the path to the liberation of suffering. This includes refraining from lying, but also being mindful of how our words affect others. Lies, even seemingly harmless ones, can have profound consequences, sowing distrust and creating divisions. How do you identify someone who lies constantly? Signs may include inconsistencies in their stories, evasions, and changes in body language, such as avoiding eye contact or showing nervousness. However, beyond these signs, it's important to trust your intuition. If something doesn't fit, there's probably a reason for it. Buddhism teaches us that truth is liberating. Practicing sincerity not only strengthens our relationships, but also purifies our mind. By being honest with ourselves and others, we create an environment of mutual trust and respect, which is essential for spiritual growth and emotional well-being. Sign 6. The fire of anger. The sixth behavior is overreaction, which in Buddhism is understood as a manifestation of uncontrolled anger. Anger is one of the 3 mental poisons, along with attachment and ignorance. When we allow anger to control us, we lose the ability to see things clearly and act in ways that can cause harm to ourselves and others. According to Buddhist teachings, anger is an automatic response that arises when we don't get what we want or when we feel something threatens our sense of control. However, Buddha taught that anger is not inherent in our nature. It is a learned reaction that we can unlearn through conscious practice. How do you manage anger in others and yourself? Meditation on compassion and patience is essential. When you feel anger arising, whether in yourself or in another person, try to pause and breathe deeply. Remember that anger is a reflection of inner suffering, and responding with more anger only perpetuates the cycle of pain. The practice of patience helps us endure difficulties without reacting impulsively. This doesn't mean accepting injustice, but handling situations with wisdom and compassion. By confronting anger with serenity, we can defuse conflicts and promote an environment of peace and understanding. Sign 7. The effect of selfishness. The seventh behavior is the protagonist syndrome, where someone believes the world revolves around them. In Buddhism, this behavior is recognized as a manifestation of selfishness and ignorance. Believing that we are the center of the universe is an illusion that separates us from others and from the true nature of reality. Buddha taught that the self is a mental construct, an illusion we create to give ourselves a sense of identity. However, this self is neither permanent nor independent. It is constantly changing and depends on a web of causes and conditions. When we overly identify with this illusory self, we fall into selfishness, believing that our needs and desires are more important than those of others. How do you deal with someone exhibiting this behavior? Buddhism suggests practicing humility and detachment from the ego, recognizing that we are all equal in our quest for happiness and that we are all subject to the same suffering helps us see beyond others' selfishness. When dealing with selfish people, it's important to set clear boundaries to protect your own well-being, but do so from a place of compassion, not judgment. Also, reflect on how you might be feeding your own ego in daily interactions. By becoming aware of our own selfishness, we can begin to free ourselves from its grip and cultivate a more open and compassionate mind. Sign 8. Using others. The eighth behavior is using others for personal gain, which in Buddhism is seen as negative karma that inevitably returns to us. When we use others as a means to our ends, we ignore their humanity and create suffering for them as well as for ourselves. Buddha taught the law of karma, which states that all our actions have consequences. When we act selfishly and manipulatively, we sow seeds of suffering that will eventually bear fruit in our lives. Using others not only harms our relationships, but also distances us from inner peace and true happiness. How do you protect yourself from being used? Buddhism teaches us to cultivate an awareness of karma and to act with compassion and wisdom. Don't allow others to use you as a means to their ends, but at the same time, avoid falling into the temptation of using others. Healthy relationships are based on mutual respect and balanced give and take. The practice of mindfulness will help you become more aware of the dynamics in your relationships and act in ways that promote the well-being of all. By maintaining a clear and compassionate mind, you can navigate the complexities of human relationships without losing your inner peace. Sign 9. Disrespecting boundaries. The ninth behavior is the lack of respect for boundaries, a sign of ignorance and attachment. People who do not respect others' boundaries are trapped in a cycle of desire and aversion, unable to see the importance of personal space and others' well-being. In Buddhism, boundaries are essential for maintaining harmony and balance in our relationships. Boundaries are not walls that separate us, but are like the banks of a river that guide its flow in an orderly and peaceful manner. Without boundaries, our lives become chaotic and our relationships deteriorate. How do you establish and maintain healthy boundaries? Practice detachment and clarity in communication. Detachment doesn't mean we don't care. It means we relate to others from a place of freedom and mutual respect without trying to control or be controlled. Communicate your boundaries compassionately but firmly, and respect the boundaries of others. Buddhism teaches us that by setting boundaries, we not only protect our inner peace, but also help others develop awareness and respect. Regular meditation practice can help you maintain calm and clarity when dealing with people who do not respect your boundaries, allowing you to act with wisdom and compassion. Sign 10. Criticism as poison. The 10th behavior is constant criticism, which in Buddhism is considered a mental poison that clouds the mind and creates suffering. Destructive criticism arises from internal dissatisfaction and is a reflection of our own ignorance and attachment. Buddha taught that the mind is like a mirror, and what we see in others is often a reflection of what we carry inside. When we constantly criticize others, we are projecting our own insecurities and fears onto them. This behavior not only damages our relationships, but also perpetuates our own suffering. How do you handle constant criticism? Practice deep listening and compassion. Understand that constant criticism is often a cry for help from someone who is suffering. Respond with empathy instead of reactivity, and if necessary, distance yourself from negativity to protect your emotional well-being. Buddhism invites us to practice self-compassion and self-acceptance. By being kind to ourselves, we reduce the need to criticize others and create an environment of love and understanding. By focusing on the positive qualities in ourselves and others, we cultivate a clearer mind and a more open heart. Sign 11. Avoiding responsibility. The 11th behavior is the lack of responsibility, a sign of immaturity and fear. In Buddhism, taking responsibility is fundamental for personal growth and spiritual transformation. When we avoid responsibility, we are trying to escape the consequences of our actions. But as Buddha taught, we cannot escape karma. Every action has a consequence, and taking responsibility is an important step toward purifying our karma and advancing on the path to enlightenment. How do you take responsibility? Practice self-awareness and acceptance. Self-awareness allows you to see your actions and their consequences clearly, and acceptance helps you take responsibility without guilt or judgment. By taking responsibility for your actions, you free yourself from fear and insecurity and begin to act from a place of power and wisdom. Buddhism teaches us that everyone makes mistakes, but the true measure of a person is not the lack of mistakes, but how they handle them. The practice of repentance and correction is essential for releasing negative karma and progressing on the spiritual path. Sign 12, the cycle of hate. Finally, the 12th sign is the thirst for revenge, a poison that consumes the spirit and perpetuates the cycle of suffering. In Buddhism, hate is seen as one of the greatest obstacles to inner peace and enlightenment. Revenge arises from the desire to harm those who have hurt us, but this desire not only perpetuates others' suffering, but also our own. Buddha taught that hate does not cease by more hate, but only by love. This is the eternal law. How do you break the cycle of hate? Cultivate compassion and forgiveness. Meditation on impermanence and interconnectedness will help you let go of hate and see others as beings who, like you, are seeking happiness and avoiding suffering. By practicing forgiveness, you not only free others from your anger, but also free yourself from the burden of hate. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting bad behavior, but letting go of the desire for revenge and choosing the path of peace. By doing this, you not only protect your inner peace, but also contribute to peace in the world. Sign 13, the snare of gossip. The 13th behavior is the habit of gossiping, which in Buddhism is understood as an act of wrong speech. Gossip may seem harmless, but it actually sows seeds of discord and distrust, creating negative karma for both the one who perpetuates it and the one who listens to it. Buddha emphasized the importance of right speech as part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Words have immense power. They can heal or hurt, unite or divide. Gossip distorts the truth and destroys trust, often leading to unnecessary conflict and suffering. How do you avoid falling into gossip? Practice mindfulness in speech and noble silence. Before speaking, ask yourself if what you are about to say is true, useful, and kind. If it doesn't meet these criteria, it's better to remain silent. The practice of noble silence helps us cultivate a peaceful mind and avoid generating negative karma through our words. Additionally, by abstaining from gossip, you contribute to creating an environment of trust and respect. By choosing right speech, you not only protect others from harm, but also strengthen your own integrity and inner peace. Sign 14, constant comparison. The 14th behavior is constant comparison, which can manifest as envy or a sense of superiority. In Buddhism, this behavior is a reflection of ignorance about the unique nature of each being. Comparing ourselves to others is a source of suffering because it ignores the law of cause and effect that governs everyone's lives. Constant comparison disconnects us from our own reality and leads us to feel dissatisfied, whether because we believe others have more than we do or because we feel superior to them. Both attitudes are destructive and prevent us from living fully in the present. How do you manage the tendency to compare yourself? Cultivate contentment and gratitude. Buddhism teaches us that true happiness does not come from comparing ourselves to others, but from finding peace and satisfaction on our own path. The practice of meditation on shared joy, known as mudita, will help you rejoice in others' well-being instead of comparing yourself to them. Remember that we are all at different stages of our spiritual journey. By focusing on your own growth and development, you can free yourself from the trap of comparison and find greater peace and satisfaction in your life. Conclusion. Now that you know these signs, Buddhist knowledge offers you the tools to protect your emotional and spiritual well-being. Practice compassion, detachment, and wisdom to cultivate healthy relationships and a life in harmony. Reflect on how these teachings can be applied in your daily life. True peace begins within, and with Buddhism, you can find the path to it. Namaste.